Hello, dear ones. This is Bevin with Perceptive Souls. And welcome to your collective energy reading. While all of these readings are done on a particular day, these are universal archetypes. So whenever you cross this, whenever it comes into your awareness, if it resonates with you, then this is your message and the energy that you're sensing. For many years as an intuitive empath, I actually tried to shut down this ability to sense into the collective energy. It felt overwhelming, it felt draining, exhausting. And then I realized I just need to allow it to flow through me, out through the tarot and the oracle cards, and into the collective to bring forward an awareness and an upliftment about what's happening now. So anytime we feel struggles, challenges, obstacles, there is always a higher spiritual message and vibration. And while I am new to YouTube, I am not new to this work. I've been coaching, teaching, mentoring intuitive empaths, light workers, and conscious leaders now for the past 7 years. So if this resonates with you, I invite you to like and subscribe and comment on this video because it helps me to grow my messages and grow my channel. So let's dive in to the particular theme that came up for me. And just to give you a sense of my process, I go within at whatever time of the day that feels right for me. And I ask, what's next, or what's out there in the collective energy? And I pull the particular cards that want to come forward, and a message, a story begins to unfold. And today's story is about the divine feminine. So on a spiritual level, each one of us, regardless of how we present and how we identify in our human gender and our human vessels, have these energies of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, right? And the divine feminine is reflected in the macro, the larger collective, the greater web of consciousness. And it's also reflected down into our human society and also within each individual. So how have we treated the divine feminine over the history of humankind, and what's emerging for that piece right now? And I'm so excited because the divine feminine has been through this really sort of tumultuous journey, and even the human feminine, those who identify with that female energy to a greater extent, have really been through a tumultuous history, perhaps in this lifetime or throughout the past, thousands of years. And so let's begin. And I think you will find an incredible healing message. We are coming more into communion with ourselves, with each other, making those deep connections, and recognizing our place as a part of the ecosystem of our greater planet. So let's begin. The first card that came out is from the soul cards. And I love these beautiful, rich imagery. And you see that she is partially hidden, behind this branch, right? There's no leaves on the branch. And there's a lot of confinement feeling to this card, right? And there have been many, many times, and still in our modern era, where the feminine has been confined, has been constricted, has felt like they need to minimize themselves, or they're taking a back seat to the masculine energy of our world. And we're looking, you see that she can see this dove, this peace, this promise of something more fulfilling, something more open, freedom, right? But you just can't get there yet. And for anyone, anywhere on our planet, who still feels like they're in this energy, I hold such deep compassion and space for you. Because every one of us, and even if you identify as male, your feminine has been trapped in this place. The part of yourself that is able to access the deep well of emotions, the part of yourself that is able to connect with the greater web of consciousness, the part of yourself that listens to its intuitive knowing. She is peeking out from behind that broken, dried up branch and saying, hey, I'm here. I'm here. You just have to let me fly. Right? And it is the destiny of our world, of the greater realms. And for each of us as an individual, this is the destiny card, to express that divine feminine, not only within us, to honor that part of ourselves, but to have that energy, that nurturing, loving, connected energy expand out into the earth. And you see that this goes back even to ancient times. There is an ancient promise here. There's a doorway, a portal to be able to open that. But her heart, and this is a little bit hard to see, is bound up, right? Her heart is bound up. But there is a higher perspective. Here's the eagle. She has this esoteric power, right? There are horns growing out, which are branches, and the branches now have little sprouts coming out. There is a revealing of the destiny of the divine feminine on this planet. And it's time for us to step in. But before we did that, as women and those who identify as female, or those who identify more with the feminine energy, began to step out, what they did was first embrace more of the masculine type of energy. So this is the Queen of Air, and this is a feminine card. This is the feminine intellect, right? The feminine wisdom. And it is a little bit of the shutting down of emotions, right? So whether you identify as male or female, regardless, you have this divine feminine wisdom inside of you. And yet, for so much of our time, in order for women to be seen as equal, they had to adopt this very masculine version. This, you see, she's sort of deadpan, right? And not really able to even access the emotional center, that lower destiny, that, you know, lower knowing, the body knowledge. And we went out into the workforce, and we fought for rights, and we adopted many masculine aspects in order to survive in our highly technological, highly intellectual world. And we learned a lot through that, right? I learned a lot through that on a personal level. I see that women have learned a lot through that. And yet there is a longing for something else. And as a part of that history on our planet, we came into this liberation, right? This sexual liberation, this liberation of our bodies. We explored, what does it mean to be objectified as a feminine form, and what does it mean to be used in that way, from a sexual perspective, to be abused in that way. And we see this with the Me Too movement. But there is still that great wisdom. You see that she is here, she's looking straight in the camera, she's like, here I am in all of my physical glory. And yet there is larger, you know, divine wisdom that's coming in. And this cat energy, which is protective and larger than life in some ways. And so as the feminine form, as this human feminine form and the divine feminine form, we explored what is sensuality, sexuality, who are we, our body image, how do we feel good about ourselves in our bare vulnerability. You know, you see a lot of women that are coming out and sharing their stories and being really vulnerable and showing every part of themselves, and showing that emotional intelligence as well. And so here we are, kind of fully exposed, and there's a myriad of experiences we had as a result of doing that and stepping into that power. And then we come more deeply into balance, right? This is the earth goddess. And of course, she's juggling like all of these different things, right? Work and family and career and personal needs and personal growth. And yet she's very grounded, very balanced. You know, she's very guided by this higher wisdom. And this is, in my opinion, why so many women, particularly women in the West, were going into the spiritual practices much sooner. I've been so excited to see all of my male colleagues like really diving into this, but women have been the leaders in this area. They have gone out into that forefront, and so there is a deeper level of consciousness, and this is the two of earth, which is not only about balancing ourselves within and balancing ourselves in the collective culture, but balancing with our earth mother, right? And you've seen people like Greta and other young women, particularly who are fighting for our planet. A good friend of mine, Claire Dubois, it works for and founded the Tree Sisters, which is a beautiful organization that brings together all of these women from around the world to donate a small amount every single month to help plant trees. And not only do they plant trees, but they actually empower local people in economically developing areas of the world, or places where there's been devastation based on, you know, cutting down forests and that kind of thing. And there are so many women who are coming together and saying, what do we do to bring ourselves into balance? How do we bring all these essences of our femininity, of that feminine power forward to be in balance with ourselves, with the earth, and particularly right now as everyone's going within and being much more sheltered at home. There is a re-emphasis on connecting with children, connecting with family, with spouses, and particularly male spouses or male partners, sharing that load. You know, uh, research shows that women, you know, take on the majority of the emotional burden and the household burden still in this day and age. And so we're seeing that shift and that change where men are really stepping up, and they're starting to see that this is a partnership. And this is what, you know, this is what we all desire. We all desire this balance. We desire to be in communion with our divine feminine, and we can honor the divine masculine. The divine masculine is amazing. The human masculine is amazing. And I'm really hoping that Source wants that to flow through me as well, so I can talk about and uplift and honor that. But really, we are here to discuss what it means to be in alignment and conjunction with this divine feminine. And this is the Ho'oponopono card. And of course, many people are learning about this particular practice. It's a Hawaiian practice, the immeasurable power of the heart way, right? And this is all about forgiveness. There have been so many things that women have endured, the feminine has endured, our Mother Earth has endured. Um, and there's a lot of hurt around that. There's a lot of sadness and pain and holding of the wounding. And this card really invites us into a deep healing process through our heart system, through all of our chakras, out into the earth. You see the rainbow, the promise that the feminine will play a really important role going forward. And my belief is that this particular time on earth is the largest shift in human consciousness that we've ever experienced. And because of that, the feminine, the divine intuitive knowing, the emotional intelligence, the body intelligence, the nurturing, the mother, even the temptress, the divine intelligence, the wisdom, it's going to be needed at this time. So I wanted to read just a little bit about this interpretation and share with you, if you're not familiar, what this particular forgiveness and connection practice is. The practice itself is not something that you can approach through the mind. The mind will resist it because it asks for us to take unconditional responsibility for everything we encounter, whether it be in our own lives or out in the world, even if those situations seem to have nothing whatsoever to do with us. The moment something comes into our awareness, we are responsible for it. The mind can rebel at this and say, that's unfair or unduly burdensome or shaming to think in that way. That is because the mind confuses responsibility with guilt and giving with deficit. The heart, though, is joyful at the prospect of spiritual responsibility because it understands that it offers the empowerment to make a difference and the healing one that helps to heal all. This oracle foretells of great healing for you as you open your heart to Pono. So I just want to talk about that for a moment. So when we say that we are responsible for everything that we have an awareness of, it doesn't mean that we are responsible to fix it, right? This is something that particularly empaths and highly sensitive people can get really deep into this process. So I want to differentiate here for just a moment before we talk about the actual practice of this. It just means that because we have come here to this planet at this time, we are all collectively responsible for our joint reality. We are individually responsible for each of our individual paths, for our choices, for our thought processes, for how we show up with other people. And yet we have a spiritual level responsibility for what's happening here on this planet. Does that mean that if you see something horrific on the internet and it just hits you so strongly inside that you are responsible to go out and fix that, or you're responsible to hold that energy in your body and try to transmute that? And this is not what that is. This is not what that is. We are not here to transmute other people's energy. We are not here to fix everything. It's the reason I bring together in my 1 million empaths community this global planetary grid of empaths and light workers, because each person's light all the way across the planet is shining in their own unique way and doing their own things in their own community. And that is why it is so, so essential to let go of the idea that it needs to be all your responsibility. If you continue to do that, as a matter of fact, you will probably feel physically ill. You'll feel exhausted and drained. And this is why I resisted collective energy. I resisted the fact, and this is a perfect example, I resisted the fact, my mind did, that I was spiritually responsible for what was happening out in the collective. I was like, just responsible for me. This is it. And I needed to put those boundaries around myself so that I could be healthy and so that I could learn how to individuate and I could understand what was mine and what was someone else's. So when I say that you are responsible on a spiritual level, it means we all came here at this time to work together for a purpose, right? Yeah. So these are the 4 steps to Ponopono. You say it loud, I am responsible for this situation. I feel so sorry for this. And then you just allow your heart to be in compassion as you might feel the emotion of what is invoked by what you're saying. And the second step is, please forgive me. We don't often say that, right? We don't often say, please forgive me. It's a really powerful statement. Ask for forgiveness. You don't need to think of whom you're asking it of. So this is not even something you have to do in front of another person. This is just within you and for you. Please forgive me. As you speak these words, feel the remorse you connected with in step 1. As you ask to be forgiven, those of you who are sensitive to energy may feel or sense a release of this energy taking place. Right? So step 1 is I'm sorry. And step 2 is please forgive me. And step 3 is thank you. Thank you. It doesn't matter whether you know who you're talking to or who you're thanking. Before you even say the words, you start to feel this gratitude. Thank you. And the 4th step is, I love you. Again, this will evoke a response within you, in your soul, in your heart, an outpouring of love. Even if you don't feel this consciously, trust that it's happening. Just go with the process and say, I love you. Let yourself feel this love as you say the words. And as you enter into this sacred heart way, this Ho'oponopono, you begin to release on an individual level and a collective level any of the hurt and the wounding and the pain from the divine feminine. Because the divine feminine on its highest spiritual level is meant to express this deep joy, contentment, connectedness, happiness, flow, right? This is what we are meant for. Again, regardless of which gender on the human aspect that you connect with, this is our birthright. We have within the power of our heart, our hands, our body, our essence, this immense ability to heal ourselves and to collectively heal what's happening in our world and shift and move us into a more conscious, a more integrated, a web of energetic being. You have this inside of you. Every single human being has this inside of them. They have this power, this beautiful feminine power. And you see that she's, sort of burgeoning with new life. And we all have this ability to birth, to be creative, to bring something new into the world. And right now, collectively, we are birthing a new era for our world. So this is a little bit about the journey of the divine feminine. I hope this resonated with you. And if you'd like to learn more about the work that I do one-to-one mentoring. I also have the community that I spoke of. You can look in the description box below, connect with me. I release readings and weekly messages through my e-newsletter, so you can get connected with that here as well. And I thank you so much for being with me today, exploring the energy of the divine feminine. Explore that in your life. Practice the Ho'oponopono 4-step process to feel what you feel. To ask for forgiveness and release. To invite gratitude into your heart. And then to express that love out into the world. Namaste, dear.